I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to remind myself how I tried so hard. In spite of the way you were mocking me, acting like I was part of your property, remembering all the times you fought with me, I'm surprised it got so. Things aren't the way they were before. You wouldn't even recognize me anymore. Not that you knew me back then, but it all comes back to me in the end. You kept everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart. What it meant to me will eventually be a memory of a time when I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter.
So this may very well be the final video that I do on the Anunnaki 2022 return book by Maximilian de Lafayette, the 10th edition. I am going to leave the comments open on this video specifically, and if I have 12 or more people leave comments and say that they want to hear more, they want me to continue with the book, then I will continue going through the book. But I'm going to push through because there's only like 5 pages to get to page 72. And in those 5 pages, there's a lot of content. I originally thought that I would get through this book a lot quicker than what I've done. So it's taken a lot longer, and I just don't want to draw it out. So I'm going to stop at 72 on this video. I'm going to stop at page 72. And like I said, I'll leave the comments open for people if they, if I get more than 12 people that request to see more of this book and they want to hear more about it and my thoughts on it, then I will continue to move forward on it. If you have questions of, how I got to these conclusions and things like that, or any questions stuff that pertain to the book, I've read the whole thing all the way through. Then I will be more than glad to answer intelligent questions, not just nonsensical stuff and people who just looking for foo-foo stuff, because I'm not into that. Before we get started into this book, I did want to talk about where we left off with the abortion, because I talked a lot about abortion and women and stuff like that and things in the battles of sexes and stuff, which is just it's destructive to your species. There's another species that's out there that wants to destroy you from within. And what's the best way to destroy from within is to get the male and female to fight against one another, to get the races that are collectively living inside that camp, or whatever you want to call America, country, whatever, to fight amongst each other, to get brother to fight brother, sister to fight sister, and we see a lot of that going on because of the toxic politics, right? We've seen since 2020, we've seen a lot of the toxic politics destroy families and destroy homes and just destroy people, where people don't recognize their brother anymore, their mother, their father, their sister. And this is a perfect way for an invading species to take over that when the time comes for them to strike, just like with the whole thing with the battle of sexes. But anyhow, I was incorrect about one thing when I was talking about abortion, and you guys I don't know if you can see it here, but I wrote abhor and then shun, because abortion, if you break it down, it's like 2 words. You have abhor and you have shun. And the word abhor, which I was like, it sounds Arabic. It's actually not Arabic. It says it's an Assami. I don't know. It's Assamese. I don't know exactly how you pronounce that, but that is a Latin. It's from a Latin language, and abhor is this asinine language, and the word abhor, it means barbarous or independent. So when you break down the word abortion, and you guys already know, I don't choose any side on the whole, political spectrum of whether women should be allowed or not allowed to have an abortion. That's an individual thing, has to do with you, which is funny because this also does say right here that the word abhor is independent. It also means independent. So it shouldn't, and that's kind of bizarre when you break it down. You look at it that way because it's exactly what I said, that it shouldn't have anything to do with the people of the land. It should only have to do with that person, that independent person, or persons, actually, the male and female who created the child. It really shouldn't have to do with just one person, like just because the ones, I think that the father should have at least some say and stuff, to at least plead his case. And like I said, without advanced telepathy, the baby inside the belly can't, plead for its own life either, and that was taken from you. See, I am here advocating for your species to evolve, to get back what was taken from you. I'm not here telling you that you should worship anything, or you should do all these, or give up your will to another species, Anunnaki, angels, demons, whatever the hell it is that you guys want to believe in. I'm on the opposite spectrum of that. I am advocating for you to do this on your own by telling them to unlock the things that have been taken from you, like your advanced telepathy. And so, like I said, the babies would be able to, plead for their own life. And then we'd see that a lot of that stuff with abortion probably would just simply go away, because frivolous sex and getting pregnant wouldn't be, it wouldn't be just, well, I already said the word frivolous. It wouldn't be, it would be more important, in a lot of ways. And safe sex would be a really seriously important. Then for sure, women just wouldn't be careless, and neither would men, because they would know that when they were babies in the belly of their mothers, that they had a telepathic connection with them. And they, so it's not just the women, I'm saying it's the men too. It would help the entire species. And so that's what I'm advocating for your species to move forward. That's the reason why I keep talking about becoming neutral and stuff. So yeah, the word abhor, it also means independent. Barbarous, which I don't know why it says barbarous. I guess that's because that sounds kind of like barbarian or whatever. But it also means independent. So, which, like I said, removes the state and all this from your decision on what you're going to do with the baby in your belly. It's an independent thing. And then, because the word abortion, it is an abortion is the name, the word itself. It should be like one of those things that in some species they probably would consider that a blasphemous type word. Like that's something we never ever say, because like they have the advanced telepathy and stuff. So they're like that's something we don't. That's taboo. We never even talk about that, because nobody would ever none of our species would ever even want to do that, so, anyhow, the other part of that word is shun, because if you break down abortion, you have abhor, because it's two words, abortion, abhor and shun. And the word shun, S-H-U-N, shun, is to avoid. You guys already know this, to avoid or to keep far away from, right? If you look up the word shun and you look at the all the different meanings and stuff, it's pretty funny, because it's just like something you absolutely just detest, and like it at all costs to stay as far away from it, right? So if you break this word down, now check this out. If you break down abortion, and I'm gonna get back to the book. I'm sorry, guys. This is I know it's taking a little bit longer than I thought it was. But if you break the word down, it means independent, and it means to avoid. Independent and to avoid. Abhor means independent, and shun means to avoid, to keep far away from. An abortion. How I told you, the English language, it's complete. It's not what you think it is, right? Like there's so much more to this language than, and like I was reading earlier, in the previous video to this, we read a line in there where it says that the Anunnaki actually are responsible for the English language, right? So, and if that's true, because I'm not saying that all this is bullshit and this is all fake, right? I'm not saying that the book is full of shit. Although there's a lot of stuff in these last few videos that I've done where I've torn a lot of stuff apart. And I don't mean, like I said, tearing out the pages, but actually tore like apart, like the breaking the stuff down and showing how there are things that conflict with itself inside of these texts and these books, right? And you would think that I absolutely think it's all bullshit, and I completely, think that this is just complete rubbish, right? We're already past September. So remember, the Anunnaki it was said that they were supposed to start coming back in September. And we're already in October, which is the 10th month, and which I explained before, since I'm reading from the 10th edition, which is the month after September when they leave, and that's when I started this 10th edition and sharing this with you guys. It makes sense to me to do it that way. So anyhow, in these next few pages that I'm about to read, it may shock you to find that it's almost like I'm doing a complete 180. Because what you're going to find out is, as a lot of stuff in these pages coming up are things that I find legit. Like I'm just like, this is undeniable stuff here. Because I have previously already talked about that stuff, and here it is in this book, so what is my conclusion on the book? I'll tell you when we get to the end of this. I'll tell you when we get to the end of this video from page 72. I'll tell you my conclusions on what I think. Okay, since we got past that, let's get started into the book itself. All right, so the Anunnaki did not totally forget us. After all, many of their women were married to humans, and many of our women were married to Anunnaki. It says that this is an ancient history. So it says that many of their women, so I screwed up here because I said, notice their women, their males will marry our women, but their women won't marry our males. But it's actually saying that there is crossbreeding between the Anunnaki and the humans. In other words, and you have to imagine, first of all, Anunnaki, from not just from these books or anything, but from the actual tablets that I'm going to go and visit. I'm going to share that with you guys too in a video. You have to imagine that and understand that Anunnaki aren't just the beings with the big beautiful wings that look angelic, which was stolen from them, because, and I talked about this before, and you can look this up. Literally just go and type this in after you watch this video. Write it down. Try to remember. Type in, what did the angels really look like in the Bible? And there are plenty of YouTube videos out now that are explaining to you that the angels in the Bible don't look anything like the Sumerian tablets of the Anunnaki. That was hijacked and stolen long ago, right? Like it was stolen after the biblical text was written, probably a few hundred years, I think, or so after the text was written. Then these Sumerian tablets were popping up, where I think, well, actually, it was probably well longer than after that. It's probably like, I think it might have been even 1,000 years later, because the first person to paint the first picture of an angel, I think, was like Michelangelo or one of those guys, or Leonardo, one of those guys, the famous, and he painted all this stuff of these Anunnaki Sumerian pictures of these beings, and made it that, oh, this is, or was it Da Vinci? Because there's like the whole thing with like the Da Vinci Code, and like how there's all these like hidden meanings and stuff, and none of his paintings were what they actually meant, right? So that would make sense that he stole these images that do not belong to the Jupiter's text or the Christian or the Muslim text, because those images is not what it says, at least in the Bible. I don't know about the Quran or the Torah, but in the Bible I know that it doesn't. They aren't described in the way that the Anunnaki are. Just look it up for your damn self if you don't believe it. I don't really care, but the truth is that it was hijacked and stolen way later on, because they were beautiful looking beings, and the angels in the Bible were not as they're bizarre looking. It says that some of them had wings with eyeballs all over the wings and all over, like eyes all over it. That's weird. That's when you look at those beings, they look what you would consider demonic and not like the Anunnaki, right? But this whole thing here where he's talking about how the Anunnaki mixed with the humans and the humans mixed with the Anunnaki, that's also, I think some of that's even in the Bible, and stuff. About obviously, when, and I don't want to get into too much biblical stuff here, because this is one of the things that I have a complete problem with this book specifically, because I explained that in the last video. The whole biblical thing and his interpretation of these things that he's saying, these are the rules and the laws that the Anunnaki abide by and live by, do not add up. The two things don't add up. They're in total conflict with one another. So when he's saying this, is probably what he's getting that from his biblical text, right? He's probably getting that from that. Whereas when you look at the Anunnaki tablets, the Sumerian tablets, there are humans and Anunnaki together, but it doesn't show in those tablets them actually embracing each other as lovers in a way, or that type of thing. It seems like they're, the humans are doing things that the Anunnaki need to be done, or the Anunnaki are helping the humans to understand how to advance their civilization. Whereas people say, oh, it looks like they were being slaves for the Anunnaki. What if it wasn't that they were being slaves for the Anunnaki? What if it was the Anunnaki were showing the humans how to move they're like, hey, do this and this will help. This is how you get this to work, right? It's just like when you go on YouTube and you look up hacks on how to hack certain things, or whatever, or how to, 10 hacks that you can do with a Coke can. It's the same thing. They were just sharing information, and then the humans would go and they would do what the Anunnaki told them to do, and be like, oh, well, there you go. Now we know how to make mortar, or now we know how to make shingles for a roof, or whatever, or now we know how to, shuck some, wheat or whatever, or what to do with wheat, or how to make cereal, So it may have been that's what the Anunnaki are sharing with them. So there's more evidence in the tablets that the Anunnaki were sharing technology and sharing things with the humans than there are of humans and Anunnaki actually, doing the thing, getting it on, being together, building families and stuff together, or together in that type of a way. So when he says this, although it may be in the text in the Sumerian language that says it, we'll never really know unless we actually go and learn how to read that ourselves, because we know that he's heavily influenced by biblical literature because he's religious. So when he mixes that with the text that he was able to translate from the Anunnaki, things would get changed. And he also does shit on the most famous guy who has the Anunnaki books and stuff, says the Anunnaki were here to enslave humans, to get gold for them and stuff like that. I forgot what the hell that guy's name, Zachariah Sitchin. So he said that Zachariah Sitchin was doing exactly what you see him doing here in this book. These people they can't separate themselves from their religious beliefs and give you a true prediction of these tablets and stuff, because it hurts their reality, right? Their religious beliefs build their reality. And once they see something that contradicts that, but they really want so bad for it to be that, they end up changing the way that they present it, so that it's not actually presented accurately with a neutral perspective. Because neutrality, like I said many times before, there's always people that say there's his side and her side, or there's two sides to the story, and then there's the truth. Well, the truth is neutral. That's all there is to it. And so when you say that there's his side and there's two sides to every story, and then there's the truth, it's because the one side of the story, they're telling it in the perspective that they want to get their narrative, they want to get across, and they will muddy up some things just to make their story more believable. And of course, the other person on the other side is doing the same thing. But when you say that there's the truth, which is in the middle, the truth is neutral, because the truth is not picking a side. That's why I keep telling you about neutrality. And neutrality is what you need when you're trying to look at these ancient texts, right? Because this is what happens. Now, let's say that this guy was not a Muslim, he wasn't a Christian, and he wasn't Jewish, but let's say that he was Hindu, right? Then, and he believed in the Hindu religion more. Well, a lot of that Hindu stuff would end up bleeding over into what his projections of the Anunnaki are. He would say more of what the Hindu beliefs are, and he would apply that more into the text. In fact, he doesn't say anything in any of this book that I've read about Hinduism at all. Nothing about Hinduism. And so, but he does bring up, and you can see it right here, even right here, that he's Lebanese, and talks about, the Muslim faith, the Jewish faith, and the Christian faith, but he really leans heavy on the Jewish faith. So it really muddies the whole thing. And I think that you don't get a fair and accurate, I think you guys get it. So let's move on. So yeah, that's, so this whole thing about the Anunnaki women would marry human males, and the Anunnaki males would marry human women. So that could be true, because crossbreeding species and stuff like that is very possible. That could be a real thing that actually does happen, or has happened with the Anunnaki, but it's not anywhere on the pictures of the tablets that we've ever seen, right? None of that's there. So I'm not ruling it out and saying it's not happening, that there isn't hybrid Anunnaki beings here on Earth. Myself, I could be a hybrid Anunnaki. There could be others. But it's not something, like I said, that you would be, that makes you special, more special than other people. Just because, it's not it's people who fantasize about those type of things are the most unlikely people to be those things. Like, for me, it just hit me, for like all this stuff. It hit me after I had my interaction in 2017 with my contact, and then boom, then everything had to unfold over these past few years. It wasn't like automatic, and it wasn't something that I had any mass delusions of, or anything like, I had been reading into the stuff and trying to find out, oh, maybe I'm a special star seed or any of that bullshit, or indigo child. I wasn't into any of that stuff, or any of that mystical stuff. So I would be a more unlikely person to go out and be talking about the things that I'm talking about right now. So the people who are those type of hybrids and stuff like that, they're going to be unlikely to even be sharing the information online with you unless there's something that there's a serious message that they need to get out. So they wouldn't be into the whole foo-foo stuff. They would be more of logical, because especially if this is correct, the way the Anunnaki look at things is they look at things in a more logical perspective and not in a religious mystical way. Of course, some of that kind of. So yeah, so that would mean this whole text right here would mean that there would be hybrids, and doesn't mean that they would be hybrids just on their planet. There could very well be hybrids of Anunnaki here on Earth. So let's move on to the next page here. I think I covered that enough. Okay, so here's a word here that I can't pronounce. It's Anhaya, I guess. It's Anhayyah. So I guess that's Anhaya, and it says it is faster than the speed of light. It reaches the Anunnaki through bobs, which bobs are star gates. For now, we will call them here. This is pretty cool. Molecule or bubbles. So here's why this is important. This is the reason why I specifically wanted to point this part out to you. So he's calling these things Anhayyas, and he says that they're faster than the speed of light. This would mean what he's talking about are these spaceships type things that the Anunnaki use. Okay, the spaceships that they use. They're faster than the speed of light. And then he says it reaches the Anunnaki through bobs or stargates. So it moves faster than the speed of light, and it can go through the stargates, which are called bobs. Okay, bobs or BABS. And it can use these stargates, which is which are portals, which is things that I've been looking for. And if you don't know this by now, I was invited, and I'm not going to go through the whole story and all the backstory and that, but I was invited by a government employee out to Utah in 2021 to find a alien portal. And when I was there, that's when I had my first telepathic moment with an animal, which was a bear in the cave. And I had just 2 weeks prior to that went out to all the way across the country from Cleveland, Ohio, all the way out to the Alcor company, which was founded in 1972, and found out that they named it after the Alcor Star, which makes no sense for cryogenics. So then the Alcor Star was kind of like a thing, but it wasn't really that big of a deal until 2 weeks later when I went out to Utah to look for an alien portal with 1010. She was also invited there too, so it was both of us. And when I had this telepathic moment when I was trying to climb down into this cave from the very top of this rocky hillside in Utah, I had a telepathic moment with this animal in there, which told me that you're looking in the wrong place. And that's exactly what I told 1010. I said, you're not going to believe this, but the thing told me, and I thought it was a big cat, but it was actually a bear in there. I said, it told me that I'm looking in the wrong place. So I walked back down the hillside, and I walked back to the entrance of the cave, which is caved in, because the original entrance was caved in. But to get to that original entrance, you have to walk around this massive rock. This is huge rock. And you have to go around it to get to where the cave is. And as I walked around it and I went to go to look at the cave, and I'm like, this isn't it, 1010. I know that there's a portal here. And I kept telling her and telling the government employee that invited us out there, I said, which I call the gatekeeper, I said, this isn't it. Well, I told her later afterwards, because it was just me and 1010 that day out there when we found the gate. And I said this isn't the way to the portal, but the portal's here. And then I walked back out around that stone, and it hit me like a bolt of lightning. Boom, that fast. And I was just like, I looked at the stone, and I said, oh my God, Tintin. I said, this is it. This is the alien. This is the portal. And she's like, oh my, and it hit her, and she's like, it is. And we were so excited and so engulfed in joy. And the thing is I was determined to get inside that cave, and I was not afraid of the animal inside, and that was inside the cave. And Tintin has already said that, and she spoke about that. In fact, we did a video the very next day while we were still in Utah, and she talked about the experience and talked about, look, he wasn't afraid. I had a spear on me. I had my swords on me. I don't want to kill anything, but I wasn't going to be denied to find that portal by any means necessary. I was going to find it. And I was willing to fight an alien species or multiple alien species if I had to, because I thought, I didn't know, I just know that I was brought there for a reason. And by the way, there was other things, not just the gatekeeper, there was other things, signs that sent me there, which is weird. And I'll share this with you briefly too. It's going to sound crazy, but the show Land of the Lost, when the gatekeeper was telling me about she owns this property, which we found out she doesn't own the property out in Utah, which still belongs to the government. When she was telling me it was a cave and there was some water, some water nearby and stuff. And then all of a sudden I was flipping through YouTube, and a thing popped up from Land of the Lost. And I was like, wow, I haven't watched that show in a long time. And I wasn't even thinking about this stuff with her in the cave and stuff. So I put on the show because I haven't watched it so long. Come to find out, they go in a cave which had some water, and that takes them through a portal. Well, as I was watching it, and I still didn't put it all together, there was these reptilian beings that lived, once they go through the portal, they end up where these reptilian beings are, which are called slee stacks. And as I'm watching it, and I saw the slee stacks' feet, they were exactly this type of two-toed looking feet which was a lot like the two-toed being, the reptilian being that came to me, which is, you guys call them draconians. Some people call them Mothman, but they're gargoyles. The same thing. So I was like, I have to go out to Utah now. So there were signs and things that directed me there. It wasn't just, I was like, oh, well, okay, she just invited me out there, I'm just going to go. That's what directed me to go out there. Oh, wait, did I not clear out a page? Oh, yeah, okay, I'm not done with that page. So that's when and then the very next day, which was the 72 hours later, because I said we had to be there 72 hours. This is the crazy part, because I said we had to be there 72 hours. By the way, we had missing time while we were there the previous night before. There was a being that smashed into my van, smashed into the gatekeeper's car and stuff. And so we were not alone. And they were letting us know we weren't alone. And me and Tintin ended up having missing time. You can watch that in the video and stuff. We talk about that. So, but anyhow, the reason why I'm bringing all this up is because of the Star Gate and stuff and finding the bombs, right? Which Star Gate? A lot of people think Star Gate as in you're going to go across the stars, right? Well, when I told Tintin when we were there, and I was trying everything I could to get this damn portal open, which, by the way, when we were all leaning on the wall and we had our hands on it, I felt like it was falling over, and I kept telling them, be careful, don't knock it over. I'm like, stop, you're going to knock it over. They looked at me like I was crazy. It's because I was actually going into the portal. And I truly believe this, and I'm telling you now that you cannot enter a portal unless your DNA or something in you will open that portal up for you, or somebody or a being who has a DNA or the signature to open that portal can open it for you. You can't just stumble across these things and just go through willy-nilly. There's a key to getting in, and it's DNA. It's a signature of your soul or something that will open it up to let you get through there. However, if there are people that are there that don't belong there and are not supposed to go through there, some of these gates definitely will not open no matter if you're able to get through or not. That is a safety measure. It's just like anything else, like with your cell phone or your computer and stuff like that, and you put like a password on it, okay? There's certain locks, or your bank account where your bank will recognize if you're using your card in weird places that you never go, so then they start alerting you and locking the card down. Well, these portals are far more advanced than any security system that any human has even understood. Okay, so this is how these things work. And when I told her, and I said, look, you're the navigator. Find the way in. I found the portal. You find the way in. And you guys have probably, some of you have been around for a while. You've heard me say this many, many times. And she immediately pulled up the app on her phone just to see where the Alcor Star was. And so happens it was right there, directly dead in the center of that stone, right where I was standing, right where I was pointing, where I said it was a portal. And that is a star gate. It has a star signature, a constellation signature on it. That tells you where that gate probably is going, or where it's actually from. And that one would lead you to the Alcor star system. And when you see, like when I went out to, and I'm constantly looking for these portals. When I went out to the Serpent Mound here in Ohio, I found another Alcor Star Gate. So that's what these are. These are star gates. And so it says, for now, we will call it molecule or bubbles. So what's important here is the fact that if you have not listened to the interview with the real reptilian woman, and I have it on my channel because I've dubbed it and reshared it on my channel, and I was going to do a whole thing where I was going to break down all the information from her and share that with you guys. She specifically says in her video, in that video from a transcript that came out in 1999, which predates all of this, because he started writing his books in 2010 or something, or 2011, 2012, well, before 2012, because he makes fun of 2012 conspiracy theorists. I think 2010. It predates this. The transcript from the real reptilian woman came out in 1999, and it went over into the year 2000 because it was at the end of 1999. It was like December of 1999. And by the way, I looked at the date from when she said that she was like 28 years old in human years, and that would have took her back to 1972. How bizarre is that, too? And I'll get into that whenever I share those videos. But she specifically called them bubbles, and she said the humans would not understand. And here he is saying the same thing, calling them bubbles. What the hell? Like, we've never heard that in any movie. We've never read that in any books that I know of, or anything, or had the government talk about bubbles or anything like that. However, the reptilian woman, which I believe is a 100% legit, real interview with a reptilian woman, far more legit than this book because there's some iffy things in this book. She called it a bubble, and now here he's using the same term, calling something a bubble, which for me gives this a little bit more legitimacy, because I find her transcript, that transcript, to be 100% legit. And with that, and her, now he's calling them bubbles as well, that's kind of a weird term, right? And here it is in his transcript 10 years later. Now, is it that maybe he got a hold of that transcript, the real reptilian woman's transcript, prior years before this? We'll never know unless Maximilian de Lafayette comes out and says so. And if he does, and he says, yeah, I read that, well, then we'll know where he got his information from. If he didn't read that, has no idea about that transcript at all, and he's calling it a bubble, well, then that gives him some legitimacy because of the fact that why would he call it a bubble? Like what she called a bubble. So, yeah. So here you go. This is one of the things that I say, hey, that gives it some legitimacy to me, in my opinion. So moving on down here, the Anunnaki have collective intelligence and individual intelligence. Now, here's something else, and I say this right here. See my video, Advanced Telepathy. I just recently read this book, but the video that I put out on advanced telepathy was months before I read this book. Months before. And I talk about that in the advanced telepathy video, where I say that with advanced telepathy, humans will be able to share information on a way more than internet, and you won't be greedy to keep information to yourself because you're hurting your own species. So when somebody figures something out, they'll stick that out there for others, and they'll go, oh well, and then they'll be able to add to it, and they'll be able to add to it, and this person, that person, and next thing you know, your technology has just skyrocketed on that thing just that fast because you're all sharing a collective intelligence together. That doesn't make you drones. That just means that you have advanced telepathy to where you can share with all the humans on the Earth, and maybe even not just Earth, but in other planets and stuff too. Imagine when advanced telepathy is unlocked for the humans, how you'll be able to connect with humans on other planets and be like, oh my God, and they'll be like, hey, we've been waiting for you guys. We have been waiting for thousands of years, and we haven't had any way to get out to you there, or, you know, things have been blocked off or whatever because these Anunnaki or these other beings are keeping you locked down. And now you're able to get to know us and speak with us. Imagine that. How wonderful that would be for the human species. Advanced telepathy. You can only get there through, you know, becoming neutral. So yeah, the Anunnaki have collective intelligence and individual intelligence. And the thing was when he says individual intelligence, and with this, when I say see my video with that collective intelligence, of course you'll have your own individual intelligence. Not everybody is going to know the same thing that everybody else knows. You know, you don't want to clutter your mind with all knowledge. You know, you want, you know, there's things that you're going to be more interested in than other humans are, obviously. And even with especially with advanced telepathy, because if you're an engineer, or if you're you're a cook, or you're into something, you're going to be sharing that knowledge more and more and more with other humans through this advanced telepathy and this collective intelligence, and you won't be concerned with, you know, something else like mechanics or whatever. It's just like, oh, okay, yeah, I mean, it's nice that information is there, but that's not, I want to spend most of my time learning about things that I enjoy the most, right? So that gives you your individual intelligence, you know. So yeah, that gives it some legitimacy there for me as well. For me personally, maybe not for you, but for me, because I just talked about this in a video before I read it. Moving on. The second is an individual prevention shield, also referred to as a personal privacy. This means that an Anunnaki can switch on or off his or her direct link, or perhaps better defined as a channel to other Anunnaki. By establishing the screen or filter, an Anunnaki can block others from either communication with him or her, or simply prevent others from reading any personal thought. I said this in my video, and I say it again, all in my video about advanced telepathy. All in my video about advanced telepathy, where I talk about, and you just go watch the video, I specifically say exactly what he's saying right here before I read the book. Specifically said it before I read this book. So it's what are the odds? What are the odds? That's another one of those things. It's like, what are the odds? So for me, it gives more legitimacy. And what they're saying here is exactly what I said in that advanced telepathy video, is that you still will have your privacy, even although you have advanced telepathy with the rest of the human species on the planet, and you all can share collectively thinking together or whatever, or share your thoughts and stuff. You can shut yourself off to everyone. You can have your own private thoughts. Like I said, which they don't explain that, and he doesn't explain this anywhere in here. Like crime would dwindle down to almost nothing. It's not to say there still won't be people that may do certain things, stuff like that, because they'll think they can keep it themselves. But I mean, they already know that, obviously, that it's possible. I'm not saying this is true, but with that type of telepathy, if somebody does do something that they're suspected of, they could probably get that person, contain that person, get a circle of humans, and those humans, probably 12, like 12 men on a jury. It's always 12, it's always number 12, 12 months in a year, 12 hours in a day, 12 hours at night, 12 men on a jury, 12th grade. It's always that number 12. By the way, I was born on the 12th. But they can get, let's say, like a circle of 12 and have that person in the middle, and they can all just burrow down with their telepathic wave onto that person and crack their, although you can have this personal privacy, and all humans with advanced telepathy are to respect people's personal and private thoughts when they want to shield themselves, they can crack that. He doesn't say this, but I'm telling you that can be cracked with enough telepathic wave of enough in a circle or a certain pattern, and all that coming in on you with all this group, and not for everyone, but just for that group to just really hone in on that person, because not everybody's want to take part in that. And you have these groups, these like telepathic, I don't want to say police because that's disgusting, but like this telepathic, like committee of truth, right? And yeah, like a committee, like a truth committee of telepathic, more like a telepathic, whatever. So they could hone in on you and crack your privacy. But they would have to be within the area where you're at, like within touching distance, where they have to be close enough to you to really push that energy in, and to crack that privacy to find out what did you do? You're hurting this other species for no reason. Was it you? You did it, didn't you? And it could crack that and bring them out. But you will have filters, and you will have ways to block your private thoughts just out there, and other people will obviously respect it, because everybody has advanced telepathy, and other people want you to respect their privacy and stuff like that. So it's not to say with advanced telepathy that you can't have your own privacy. You can. In fact, it's even more privacy than those who don't have telepathy at all, because those who don't have telepathy at all have no idea that they're being invaded. They have no idea. That's the reason why I hate remote viewers, because they're opening up a channel, and now they have no idea what they've done, because they've opened up a channel with a being who has advanced telepathy, and now they can manipulate and change things in your mind and make you see things and change your personality and do all kinds of shit to you, and you had no idea that it's happening to you because you don't have those privacy blocks. You don't know how to block it. And so when there's people out there like Stephen Greer, who does the CE5 stuff, well, he's doing something that's extremely dangerous, because he's getting people to try to open up these channels, and that's not a good idea. Think about it. That's like never having a password on your computer and having all your private information on your banking, personal information about your family and stuff like that, but you have not only do you have no password, you leave it in a public library for anybody to get on your computer and just get in there and do whatever the hell they want to do. And that's exactly what happens with these people who are remote viewers. They have no idea what they're messing with. But they want power. These are people who they want to be able to pry into other people's lives, into governments, into other species' lives and stuff, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're prying into their lives without asking permission. Are you asking permission? Are these remote viewers asking permission before they go and do this? No, they're just doing it. And by all rights, a being with advanced telepathy can say, well, They pried in on me, so it's open game now, bitch. It's open game on you, and that's what I'm saying. It's not a good idea. But yeah, so he talks about this. The same thing I talked in my video. The filter screen and shield are interchangeably used to describe the privacy protection. In addition, the Anunnaki can program telepathy and set it up on chosen channels, exactly as we turn on or off our radio sets and select the station we wish to listen to. Telepathy has frequency, channels, and stations. And I call this the wave. So exactly what he's talking about here with those channels and opening up those channels and stuff is exactly what I was just talking about. I didn't call it so much as channels in my video. I called it a wave. I said there's a telepathic wave, right? So everyone can tap into the entire human species telepathic wave, right? That people just all share and all different type of thoughts and stuff. And then you can have private waves, a private telepathic wave that you put out there to just your family, your close family. And no matter where they're at. And this all starts with the baby in the belly, right? With the mother who has advanced telepathy and who is pregnant with a child who has advanced telepathy, who's born with it. So that wave is already began from within. So when she gives birth to that child, then that child still has that advanced telepathy, and the mother has advanced telepathy, and it's there. And that wave is always there. That connection's always there from that family, and so forth and so forth, and cousins and uncles and distant cousins and different uncles and aunts and all these relatives, because the human species is one gigantic family. However, so you have that mass wave that's open because everybody had the telepathy from the baby as the baby in the belly, but you also have this closer connection with just your family. And so they talk about that in here in a lot of ways, but I call it a telepathic wave. He calls it a channel. And so yeah. Page 70. I spoke about this in my video about how planets work. Okay, the whole Earth could blow up. Should this happen, the whole solar system could be destroyed. I made a video, and I need to leave links to these videos because I keep telling them I made this video, I made that video. I need to put links in these videos, so I'll go back and I'll put links in those videos that I already did about this book and share those video links to videos that I already talked about. I made a video talking about how planets work, and I made that video, I think, in 2020 or in early 2021. Early 2021, because it was when I was on my way back from Alcor. I talked about it for the first time when I left Alcor in Scottsdale, Arizona, and then I made an actual official video where I show planets and stuff like that, where I, make, a little bit classier looking video, and I explain about how planets work. And I said in that video, because people are talking about how planets just, a planet can just blow up and and all this stuff, and it doesn't work like that, guys. And this is why it's so important, and this is why galactic councils and stuff exist, because if there's a species on a planet that's in jeopardy of actually blowing up a planet, which people say that all these nukes can blow up the planet, I personally don't believe that all the nukes in the world can blow up the planet. It can really do some damage to the crust of the Earth. It can kill, when all nukes go off, it can destroy all life on Earth, but it won't blow up the freaking planet. I don't think the humans, obviously humans don't understand the mass that is in Earth. Like the mass of Earth, those bombs can go off all over. They're just going to rearrange the crust of the Earth. But the mass itself of Earth is far more dense, far more greater than all the nukes in the world going off. It takes a special type of weapon to blow up a planet. And if that ever happens, whenever a planet blows up, it destroys a bunch of planets in its solar system. Because I explained before, and I'm not going to go through it all, just go and watch the video where I talk about advanced planets. So this is, again, another one of those things that I'm just like, well, there you go. You know, I talked about this in the video, and it says right here, the whole Earth could blow up. Should this happen, the whole solar system could be destroyed. And that's what I talk about, because you see in these movies where planets just blow up, like in Star Wars. Oh, a planet blew up, and oh, everything else is going on as normal. Oh, we can just, oh, that planet blew up. Oh, I can feel it in the force. No. When a planet blows up, it disrupts the clock of time for that solar system. And it knocks off all these other planets that have their orbit going on. They all work off of each other. They need each other. Earth needs Mars. Mars needs Saturn, or Jupiter. Jupiter needs Saturn. These things, they need each other, and it becomes a chain reaction. So if one planet's destroyed, it can completely screw up 2 or 3 or more planets in that solar system, and other beings are just not going to risk that happening. So unless there's like some great war, galactic war. So yeah, another page with some legitimacy. This page, it talks about the Anhaya thing and stuff, and I just, there's nothing really in here that I wanted to share with you guys, because on this page, it talks about the Templars and stuff, like Knight Templars stuff. You get the book if you want to read. It also talks about UFO crash site in Roswell. A lot of this stuff is stuff that you already have heard and things, so there wasn't really any information here that I thought that was really worth sharing with you, so I didn't put any Ramadash, I didn't. So that's page 71. Okay, page 72, here we go. This is the end, guys. This is the end. This is the end. My only friend. Okay, so and this is on page 72. And this was like one of the things that made me go, okay, well, I need to get this book, because I saw like a small thing about stuff that made sense, and I'm like, okay, maybe I need to get this book, However, I didn't know it was on page 72. On page 72, what is our hall? Is it going back in time? Origin, derivative from the Anunnaki word, whatever. I can't pronounce it. Number 2, the numeric number for that is 888. So our hall, going back in time, time travel, the numeric number is 888. And I've talked about this before, about how important, because I was born into 888. It's not something that I just like that number. I was born into it. And I've showed on my birth certificate in a video where I show in a birth certificate, on my birth certificate, I was born 8 pounds, 8 ounces, November 12th. Okay. Well, November 12th is the house of Scorpio, and the house of Scorpio is in the number 8. And we know that the 8 is the infinity symbol. So in the 8th house, 8 pounds, 8 ounces. What is your worth? What is your weight when you come into the world? Mine was 8 pounds, 8 ounces in the 8th house of the Scorpio, which therefore gives me the 888 number. So it's been important to me because of that. Number 3, meaning. This is a very difficult phenomenon to comprehend. Very difficult phenomenon to comprehend. To understand the concept, the closest metaphor in human terms would be that if you wish you could do something differently, change the past, change a life decision, like perhaps going back in time to a point before you made a bad decision, or if you, okay, so I put in there 1972, or if you think you could do some good, if you could change an entire event, and then I put down here 2022, change an entire event. In the Anunnaki's case, they have the solution for these dilemmas. An Anunnaki can split him or herself into or more if necessary. Now, we talked about before. It's not exactly like being a clone. It's like being reborn. But, of course, you would have to find yourself. You'd have to figure things out. You can't just be born on Earth as a Anunnaki copy and just know your origins and know everything that you need to know as a child, because you would not fit in. You automatically would be, you would set yourself up. So you have to go through this life and understand the human's life and live it until the time comes when your mind would become unlocked. So if you're a copy and you're born on earth through a human mother that you choose to be born to, then you would there would be a time in your life when your mind would finally become unlocked, when you're ready. Or maybe you're deviating from your path, and then an alien species who is watching over you, who's watched over your entire life, which you guys would call them angels or whatever, but it's not, would come in and intervene and give you the clues. And knowing you as a star being, as a star child, that is going to activate in you, and then the knowledge will start coming. You can't be just told. You have to find your way, and you have to learn it before you come to the final conclusion, and then you know what you're supposed to be doing while you're here on Earth, and then you'll understand your mission. And so this gives a ton of legitimacy for his writings for me. For me personally, maybe not you, but personally for me, it gives me okay, well, this is legit, because this hit me, this whole thing here with the R Hall and going back in time, the fact it's on page 72, I've been talking to you guys over and over and over about the year 72, from 1972. Even this book itself, by the way, I'm gonna get to the end of that in a second, has a lot to do with, the whole book itself has to do with 72, and I'm going to explain that in a moment too. And it's going to blow you away for those of you who don't know about this. An Anunnaki can split him or herself in two or more if necessary, and move on to a universe that is very much like the one they live on, like Astoria or not Nibiru. So the universe, so what he's saying here, a universe very much like the one that they live on. So, in other words, the Anunnaki are obviously not from a universe that is so alien and so unfamiliar than the one that you know now, because he's saying that they can only go to ones that are familiar. So we're not talking about beings that are coming from some dimension that's just completely augmented that you wouldn't even understand. Like it's just a complete liquid, weird, bizarre frequency type existence. It would be a lot like the existence you see now, very similar to it. And so that's what he's saying there. And he says, there are so many universes, and some of them do not resemble Nibiru at all. Oh, okay. So he's saying there are tons of different universes, and they don't resemble Nibiru at all. But the one that the Anunnaki can come to, an Anunnaki can split him or herself into or more if necessary, and move on to a universe that is very much like the one that they live on. Can move to one that's like the one that they live on, which is Astoria, but not like Nibiru. And then he says, there are so many universes, and some of them, so what he's trying to do is he's trying to explain to you that, hey, there are a bunch of universes out there that don't look anything like the one that they're from. So obviously that's not where they're going to go. So if they're going here, they're familiar to you in a lot of ways. And so, this whole thing, and I've already done a whole video on this paragraph here, so I'm not going to really go through this anymore. And that's page 72. And that's why I said, in this video, I'm going to show you some things that, for me personally, that I give it some legitimacy. So, I don't think I really need to talk about that one that much more. So, why did I say that this book has a lot to do with 72? Because the final page, which I'm going backwards here, and you can see this is a blank page, no numbers. Blank page, no number, right? The final page right here, I'm going to bring this up closer so you guys can see it, is page 144. And for those of you who are biblical and know about the 144,000, It's that number 144, right? Like this whole 144. Well, if you take 72 and 72, what do you have? 144. 144. It's real simple. For those of you who have a hard time with math, I'll make it even simpler for you. 4 and 4. So if you take, 72 and 72. 2 and 2 is 4. 7 and 7 is 14. 144. So the number itself, 144, if you cut that in half, you have 72. This is not crazy division. This is not addition, subtraction, and multiplication. This is a simple half. Halfway there. Half of the day. Half of whatever. Your other half. Your better half. A halfway point. 72. And half of 144 is 72. Now, here's the thing. Although this is the final page, which is 144, there's nothing on this page. It's a blank page. A blank page is either a page that actually has something there. We're just not able to read it yet because our minds haven't evolved yet to really understand what's really here. Or the blank page is your story that needs to be the conclusion. So the story actually isn't, the book actually doesn't end because there's a blank page of 144, which means that there's something amiss.
As far as I can go.